Making news this morning, some 300 French police have surrounded a house where the Toulouse gunman has been holed up for more than 12 hours. The 24-year-old Frenchman of Algerian descent is suspected of killing 3 Jewish school children, a rabbi and 3 paratroopers.
Prosecutors have named him as Mohammed Merah, who claims to have links to Al-Qaeda. They say he is heavily armed. He's told police that he wanted revenge for Palestinian children killed in the Middle East. And as you can see there, we have live pictures of the house. The police have, in fact, surrounded that house for several hours overnight, and in fact, last night our time as well. There was some gunshot. There was 3 policemen who were injured in that exchange, and the standoff goes on. Phil Williams is our Europe correspondent, and he joins us now from London. Phil, as I mentioned just then, this has been going on for several hours. No breakthrough just yet.
No breakthrough. We know there are negotiations continuing between the police and this man who's suspected of murdering 7 people in cold blood. We do know that the police tell us that he is heavily armed. He has apparently an Uzi submachine gun. He also has an AK-47 assault rifle, and it's believed that he has other handguns. Police say also there were other weapons found in his car. And so this is, if this is the man they think he is, he's a very dangerous individual and clearly has not given up after many hours, although there was some hope that early this afternoon, a few hours ago, that he had agreed to give up, but that appears not to have been the case. So we don't know how long it's going to go. What we do know is there is only one outcome. He will be arrested eventually. The danger is, of course, that in that process he may be killed or take his own life, and of course a lot of valuable explanation and evidence would go with him. So police very much keen to take him alive because they want to find out, was it just him? Was he a part of a network? And of course there is that lot of stories emerging about him possibly having worked for the Taliban and even being arrested in Afghanistan for laying roadside bombs and being jailed and escaping jail there. Now, these are stories that have yet to be confirmed, but there are strong running stories at the moment that he has a very, very checkered history and that, in fact, French intelligence services were already onto him. Now, if that is the case, then it begs the question, how did this possibly happen? If they were watching him, they clearly weren't watching him well enough because he's gone on to kill in 3 different locations at 3 different times.
Now, I understand too that another man, allegedly his brother, has already been taken into custody.
Yes, that's true, and his mother was also brought down to try and talk him out, which didn't work. Yes, his brother, in fact, 2 relatives, we believe, close relatives, have been taken in. We don't know on what basis. The police are obviously trying to discover as much as they possibly can about this man, or whether these other people are in any way related to these horrific crimes. No charges have been laid, so we just have to wait and see about that. But if there is also a rather interesting report from a television producer from a TV station who says the man claiming to be the killer called her last night, gave her information that seemed to indicate he knew exactly what had happened at the 3 murder sites, and said that he'd done it for the Palestinian children because of the burqa ban and also because of France's involvement in Afghanistan. And he also had told her quite chillingly that he'd planned to kill again. This is before he was apparently surrounded in this siege, and included targets in Toulouse, in Lyon and also in Paris.
Now, Phil, as you said, there's a suspicion around a lot of his background. Has he been talking about this? Has he been saying anything to police during the siege?
Yes, police, through the Interior Minister, says he told police that, yes, he was with Al-Qaeda, and this appears to gel with stories that he was training with Al-Qaeda in Pakistan and then sent across the border into Afghanistan, presumably to fight NATO troops, to fight his own, potentially his own countrymen. We still don't know the veracity of that. There are so many bits and pieces to come out and so many dots to be drawn before we can really make concrete conclusions here. But clearly he was of interest. The police knew this man already. He was a petty thief. He'd been already arrested for snatching a bag when he was 18. That was back in 2005. And also just 2 weeks ago, he'd been in court facing a charge of driving without a licence. So not unknown to the police, but of course clearly they didn't suspect this level of criminality, even if the intelligence services were watching him. They clearly weren't watching him closely enough.
Phil Williams, thank you so much for your time. And as we leave you, we are still looking at those live scenes outside that apartment in Toulouse, where the standoff has now gone on for several hours. It's late in the night now in Toulouse, and as we heard from Phil, a very dangerous situation. The man heavily armed, and we'll be coming back to that scene right throughout the morning on News Breakfast. Here with the rest of the day's news, here's Paul.